Hi everyone, we are at Slimbridge in Gloucestershire. That's how they speak here. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a minute and I'll talk about some of the birds we might see. I'm here with my brother who definitely is going to say hi now.
Hi now.
We're hoping to see quite a lot of waterfowl here. There's lots of ponds and stuff. Stay tuned, let's take a look around. There's also a ton of hides. 17 was it?
13.
13, oh, disappointing.
Let's go.
Gonna check them all. Stay tuned.
When you enter Slimbridge Wetland Centre, you're immediately greeted by a few ponds with a variety of waterfowl. The trouble is, it can be hard to know which species are captive and which are hanging around through choice. I got really nice close views of some northern pintail. I really like these handsome ducks. I'm not counting it though. I've no idea if it's captive or not. Even more exciting was seeing a male common eider in breeding plumage and performing a courtship display. But again, it's probably captive, so it doesn't count. A shame, because it would be a lifer. The same goes for this female smew. And, well, this is a redhead, and they aren't found outside of North America. If all that is bad news, then I also recently noticed that I've counted the tufted duck twice, once in the first England video and again in the second, so I have to reduce my count by 1. Oops. Don't worry, things get better, honest. So yeah, that's the thing with Slimbridge. You can't really count birds around the trails, but you can count birds that you see looking outside the perimeter, especially from the hides. So we made our way to one of those now.
Lots of waterfowl when we first came into Slimbridge. Really like seeing the common eider. They're coming into breeding season. Nice plumage, doing their mating call and stuff. We're on our way to the kingfisher hide now to see if we can see anything out there. Stick with us.
Probably a little bit silly to say this, but I was happy to see this pheasant. I hadn't seen one in years until this trip. A few had flown up from hedges as I drove around in previous days, but I was glad to get my camera on this one so that I can count it. We also saw great tits and blue tits. Quite close views of a tree creeper. And although they're quite common, I'd so far been unable to get a wren on camera until now. They just don't sit still for very long.
Got it.
We continued to a couple more hides, including the Van der Bovenkamp hide and the Zeiss hide. From these we saw a herring gull and some distant waterfowl, but I can't be sure exactly what was out there. It was a bit out of range for my camera and our binoculars. To get to the next hides, we had to backtrack through some of the captive waterfowl. But on our way, we saw some distant birds in the tops of this tree. Now, none of us are seasoned when it comes to UK birds, so there was some deliberation. We could tell that they were a type of thrush. Could they be redwings? Turns out they were fieldfare. A lifer. We crossed paths with this jackdaw too, a bird that thrives in urban areas. I'd been hearing their kyak call throughout my trip. Here's a shelduck in one of the ponds. I'm counting it because we saw some distant ones in one of the hides. It's a common waterfowl species in Britain, but it's quite striking for its chunky size and bold plumage. We came to another pond and suddenly the birds were very familiar to Sara and I.
Well, I'm not counting these because I'm imagining that these are all clipped and can't fly away. But we are in the North American section, so you're going to be seeing a lot more of these fellas on this channel in the next little while as we enter winter. You got buffleheads, goldeneye, hooded merganser.
We checked the Hogarth hide, but everything was too far away, so we moved on to the South Lake Discovery hide, which looks over the same body of water. We finally got some slightly closer views of some actual wild waterfowl. Oi, teal, move! There's a snipe hidden behind this teal. Honest.
The snipe's up where it was. It's back down again.
Further out, the identification got a little bit more challenging for us. We aren't super familiar with what UK birders call wading birds and North Americans call shorebirds, especially in their winter plumage.
This is lapwings.
There are lapwings in the centre of this shot, surrounded by yet more teals. The bright-legged birds on the left of this shot are redshank. Most of the other sandpiper birds, like this one, are rough. And thank you to my friend and UK birder Nigel for letting me know that there is a dunlin in the centre of the shot. In the centre of this shot, I believe I have a black-tailed godwit. And further out into the lake were some avocets. Despite being quite far out, I really liked seeing these birds. Sara and I like them. We once saw a really large flock of American avocets early in our birding lives at a nature reserve in Delaware, so it's one of many spark birds that we really like to see. We continued looking from other hides located throughout Slimbridge. By this point in my visit to England, the weather had improved. Storm Babette had caused flooding, so there was still standing water in places, but it had begun to recede. Anyway, we saw a few more common species, such as a little egret, which we'd already seen, the obligatory Canada geese, which I haven't counted until now, a few great cormorants, which I'll now count, some more shelducks. Oh, and then look, this little fella flew in. A white wagtail. It's referred to as a pied wagtail in Britain. Pied wagtail is a subspecies of the white wagtail, but it's the predominant variation there. It has a black coloured back compared to a more grey colour in the nominate species. It must have been getting close to lunchtime. Loads of grey-lag geese were flying in all over the place, expecting to share with the visitors. We were getting hungry too, but had one more place to check. We had a bit of a walk to the Estuary Tower. This tower affords views over the River Severn estuary, upriver from where it empties into the Bristol Channel. Large parts of this estuary are designated as a site of special scientific interest. It's a pretty extensive habitat for birds and plants. Our views were quite distant, though a staff member allowed us to use his scope. In this view, the larger geese are Canada geese, the smaller ones with white bodies, black necks and white heads are barnacle geese. There's also a single Ross's goose in this shot, which is all white. I don't have footage, they were just much too far away, but the staff member showed us a pair of Russian white-fronted geese to the south. That's a subspecies of the greater white-fronted goose. And well, that's it for Slimbridge, but stay tuned. I'm going to quickly tell you about some sightings at a few other places I quickly nipped to when I had the chance to do some birding that were just brief stops, unworthy of their own standalone video. Near the beginning of my trip to England, I went for a quiet walk through Wyre Forest with my mother on the 16th of October. We saw another tree creeper, and a dunnock.
That's a dunnock.
Or a filthy dunnock, as my brother likes to call it, a tongue-in-cheek sarcastic reference to how disappointingly common they are, as well as their rather questionable mating habits, whereby the female dunnock presents a cloaca to the male so that he might check for the fluids of any other rivals, and, if present, peck that fluid away before taking his turn. Hey, I'm not here to judge. With a spare afternoon in Worcestershire on the 22nd, we checked eBird for hotspots close to where I was staying, and took a chance on Grimley gravel pits just north of Worcester. It was a bit of a miss, but we did see another great crested grebe. You can hear Sara call out a kingfisher, but it didn't cooperate for a shot.
Yep, kingfishers coming across here.
There were a few little grebes, and I got a nice but brief shot of a robin, except a hair decided to get stuck on my camera sensor. On the 23rd, Sara, my brother and I had an afternoon walk around Hartlebury Common outside of Stourport. We saw some common birds like goldfinch, crows, magpies, and some long-tailed tits.
Top of the leftmost tree.
Yeah, he's right up there now, in the V.
Yep.
But we also saw a new bird, a linnet. and a passerby told us they'd seen a missel thrush that morning. We managed to track it down. We also saw a blackbird, but I couldn't get a great shot of it. But here's one in my stepsister Kate's back garden from the morning we went to Malvern, featured in my last video. On October the 26th, it was peeing it down with rain, but was forecast to clear up that afternoon, so Sara, my brother and I decided to pay another visit to RSPB Sandwell Valley. We didn't see anything too interesting out on the water through the Hyde, unless you find rain interesting, but got good views of some birds closer to the visitors centre. Here's another rose-ringed parakeet. These birds were introduced into the UK but seem to have had a population boom towards the 1990s. Early populations of the birds began in various parts of London, but they can now be found in northern England, the home counties, the Midlands like this one, and elsewhere. Their normal range is in Africa and the Indian subcontinent, but they have thrived in the UK and elsewhere thanks to rising temperatures, a lack of many predators besides raptors, their prolific breeding capability, and because they will happily feed on seed at bird feeders. We saw many common species around the feeders, but here's another new bird, a coal tit. Of all the tits, this one looks the most like its eastern North American cousin, the black-capped chickadee. One more place we visited was Middleton Lakes.
We took a quick visit back to Sandwell Valley. My brother's still with me. Back there, look. So he came with us, it's his first time there. We're now at Middleton Lakes though. We've already seen a couple of things. Chaffinch. Unfortunately I couldn't film it, but we also saw a nuthatch. So there's a couple more species for the book. Stay tuned, we're going to take a look what else is here.
We were a little pushed for time at Middleton Lakes, so we only got as far as the first couple of lakes. We actually heard the call of a bittern, but didn't have time to investigate the extremely well camouflaged bird. The first couple of lakes didn't really present anything new, but the bird feeders near the beginning of the trail were quite active. Birds we'd mostly already seen, but here's a handsome male chaffinch rather than the female from earlier. Oh, and that nuthatch that I thought I missed? I did manage to get a photo of it.
Right, that's it then for British birds. That's the end of my trip coming up in a couple of days. No more time for birding, family commitments and visiting people, that kind of thing for the next couple of days. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back in Ontario soon doing more videos from there. The 250 bird challenge will be back shortly. I only need one more bird in that. We have a trip to Algonquin coming up. Maybe we'll see it there. Maybe we'll see it before then. Who knows? I don't. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Happy birding.